we're going to do another book tag. But this time, it's mine. I made it. Let's do this. So hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Through the Pages with Dee. So as I said at the start, I've decided to create my own tag and it's called the book title tag. And the purposes of the tag is to open up our reading scope. So hopefully a few different books will get thrown out there that we haven't heard of. You don't have to have read them. So to answer these questions, you don't have to have read the book, you just have to know the title and it has to relate to the question. So that's just the purpose of this. But the purpose of it is that it will open up different books to us, maybe books we haven't heard of before. And I just thought it might be quite fun. I really enjoy doing these tags. I know they've kind of maybe gone a little bit out of fashion on BookTube, but I actually really enjoy doing a tag and I hope you guys will enjoy watching this. I've got a few people who I want to tag at the end and I hope they'll see the fun in it and potentially play along. So let's see how we get on, shall we? So I think as I go through the questions, you might get the gist of what it is that I mean. So let's start with question 1. Which book title best describes any member of your family, literally or metaphorically? So what I've gone with is my daughters and my dad, and the book I'm going to choose that describes my family members is A Christmas Carol. Now if I may explain that, what I mean by that is my girls and my dad, when my dad was alive, they were the ones who kept me on the right path. So as I see Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, Marley and the ghosts are trying to put Scrooge and keep him on the right path. So to me, that's the sort of comparison I make with my girls, my dad and A Christmas Carol. Is the intention is everything that's said to me is to keep me on the right path. So the comparison there is The Christmas Carol with Marley and the ghosts. So that's the kind of thing I mean. So I hope that kind of maybe explains it a little better. Hope. So question 2. What fantasy book title relates to a time in your life, either by name or meaning? So I have chosen It by Stephen King. Now, I understand that sounds absolutely bizarre. Again, I'll explain. So when I was young, I lived at a house with the number 505, and it was with both my mum and my dad at the time. My mum and dad separated when I was 9, so up until the age of 9, that's where I lived. And as my father and me spoke as I was an adult and what have you, we talked about the weird goings on in that house and how we always thought that it was haunted. So it's kind of the coming of age and the dealing with the spooky goings on as to why I relate that particular time with Stephen King's It. Not specific to clowns, but I did have one occasion that I vividly remember where my mum and dad sadly argued quite a lot. And they were arguing on this particular time and I was sat at the top of the stairs listening to this particular argument, and I'd come running down the stairs when I knew they were coming because they were in their bedroom. And when I got to the bottom of the stairs, my mum came down first and went past and went into one of the rooms. Then my dad came down, went into one of the rooms. They were still kind of arguing and bickering, and as I waited there, my mum and dad came down the stairs again, but with these kind of contorted, evil kind of faces like they were coming after me. No, I wasn't asleep. No, I haven't dreamt this. This is what happened. You can believe me or not. Hand on heart, I'm telling you, this is what happened. So I make a comparison of that particular time in my life. I would have probably been about 6, maybe 7. And yeah, this incident occurred and I went running to where they were and clung onto my mum's leg for fear that these doppelgangers of my parents were going to come and get me. So that particular time in my life, I relate to Stephen King's It. Yeah. So, question 3. What book title says something about your spouse or your bestie? So, I don't particularly have a bestie anymore in my life. I did when I was younger, and they've grown and gone on with their lives, and I don't have a spouse, a significant other. I did, but, things end, don't they, and things happen. So I could only think really of one person, and that's who's become my YouTube bestie, which is DARKO. And I have to obviously say Kindred, because that is literally the book that brought us together. And DARKO did the review of Kindred. I saw it. I found it so inspiring. I commented to DARKO that you've now made me want to read this book. I'm going to read it. And then I reviewed it. And then we sort of back and forth commented. And then we just had this instant connection. And I relate that similar also to Dana. And when she went back in time and spoke to her relatives, and she knew that there was this connection. And we often say to each other, like, it's like we've known each other in a different life. And so I relate not just the fact that Kindred was what brought us together as friends, but also that the essence of Kindred, as in the time travel and Dana meeting her family. I feel like me and DARKO have been family somewhere, because we have that relationship where we sort of know what the other person's going to say, or we feel exactly what the other, and with such similar taste, and we have kind of the same emotional feelings about things. So it had to be that. It had to be that. So yeah, that's my answer for that one. Question 4. What book title relates to your profession? Well, as I have said to you guys, this is what I do now. I do booktube full time, purely because of health reasons, which I will at some point do a video about, so explain myself better. Excuse me. But my profession was a hairdresser. I left school and went straight into hairdressing, and I did that for years. So the book for that is Now Hair's a Story by Gary Davidson, and I did read the synopsis of this particular book because I haven't read it. So this is what I mean by you can actually use a book you haven't read if it relates. So I haven't read this book, and when I read the synopsis, it was practically telling my story. My mum used to go to the hairdressers, I used to go with her, and I was kind of in awe as to what the ladies were doing in there. And it just, I mean, I'm quite a creative person. I do like the creative arts. I've always liked art and photography and pottery and things like that. So this very much appealed to me. And it was from that, and Gary, tells a very similar story within this book of going with his mum to the hairdressers and just suddenly feeling this urge that that's what they wanted to do. And it was exactly the same for me. I'd go there every time my mum would go with her, and I'd watch, and sometimes I even helped and passed the rollers or, did something. And yeah, so that just related in that sense. So that's the answer to that question. Number 5. What book title is the most obscure you've ever wanted to read? There was no hesitation in this, because you all know I'm a little bit dark and twisted, and that is Tender is the Flesh by Augustina Batanicra, I think her name is. If I say that wrong, I apologise, but Tender is the Flesh. This is obviously a book about cannibalism, and I've heard some very good reports of this book. I don't own it as yet, but I absolutely intend to. So yeah, Tender is the Flesh is the one that I'm very interested in reading. Number 6, yes. What book title best describes you? Okay, so this one took me a minute, because I've had a lot of events in my life. For 47, I've gone through a few things. But I had to pick Peter Pan by, obviously, James Barrie. And the reason I picked Peter Pan is because part of what I've just explained is my mum and dad separated when I was 9. It wasn't a nice separation for me at all. Briefly, I went to school that morning, came out of school that night or afternoon. My mum was picking me up and she basically gave me an option. Did I want to come and live with her or stay with my dad? And it was the day before my 9th birthday. And I didn't really know my dad because he worked all the time, so I chose to go with my mum. And I was suddenly in this house with now a stepfather and his 3 sons. And they all hated me. They didn't want me there. And I had to physically fight each one of them to kind of defend my mum because they were slating my mum as well. Just wasn't a nice time. And then things happened with my stepfather and, you know, it just went downhill from the age of like 11, 12. So I relate to Peter Pan because I just wanted out of that situation. I wanted out of that house. And to go to Never Neverland would have just been magical for me. I would have run and I would have been a lost boy or lost girl and I would have never have gone back. So that's why I relate to Peter Pan. Because that time in my life was pretty shit, to be quite honest. Excuse me. So we've done 6. So 7. What book title are you most excited for in 2024? The book title I'm most excited to read, and I have it downstairs. Sadly, I didn't bring up the synopsis with me, but it's Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, and it's like a man's journey through a pretty traumatic life. So that's the one I'm actually really looking forward to getting to, is Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. Don't know if any of you have heard of that. If you have and you've read it, let me know in the comments what you thought. Don't spoiler, no spoilers, but if you thought it was good, then let me know, because I am really looking forward to that. Question number 8. If you wrote a book about your life, what would be the title? Again, I thought for a while about this one. Could have come up with a few different titles, but the one I really fell on, and if I was to ever do an autobiography, I absolutely would call it this. And my title would be, I'm not a sheep, I'm a shepherd. And that's that. It's just 8 questions, and then the 9th is obviously tag some tubers. So I hope you all liked that. This is out to anybody. If you see this video, booktuber or not, and you would like to participate in the book title tag, please do. I would love that. I would love for this to be fun and people enjoy it. I also like the idea that maybe it gives you a little bit of time to pause and have a think and maybe research some books, as I did. Some of these I haven't read, so I've had to actually have a look and see how a book title can relate to me. And once I've found it, I've been sort of, I actually want to read that. So I think it also expands our TBR. Not that we necessarily need it expanding, but, you know, it's always nice to find new books. So, booktubers I'd like to tag. Obviously DARKO, my bestie, from Kindles and Kicks. Shout out to you, DARKO. You knew I was going to tag you in this. That was always going to happen. Then my lovely, lovely teacher friend, Pat, from Book Chat with Pat, who I asked and she said she would like to participate, so that's cool. Then I've got Carl from Please Read Your Book, who recently, Pat and Carl tagged me in the same tag. So I'm going to ask a question about that to somebody else, because somebody else was also tagged by those 2 people. And I think it might be quite a cool idea if we maybe did that together, just to see how similar we actually are. That's just an idea going around in my head, so we'll see how that goes. Then I would also like to tag Matt from Beard of Darkness Book Reviews, because he's just a cool guy and he's so nice, such a nice guy. I would also like to tag the 2 guys from the Fantasy Files podcast. I think that would be interesting if those 2 did it together. So I'd like to see that. So that's to Spence, and I can't remember the other guy's name. I apologise, but I know it's Spence. And then lastly, I would like to tag Sonia from Sonia with an I. And if there's anybody out there who wants to participate, like I've said, please feel free. I hope it's entertaining. I hope my questions were quite interesting. I was trying to be a little bit more maybe philosophical in my approach to this tag. So yeah, that's my tag, and I hope people out there enjoy it. Okay guys, so if you did like this content, you know what to do. We've got the clickies down here, the like and the subscribe. And as we all quote our good friend John Minton, it just feels good to press that subscribe button. So if you could do that, it helps me out. It helps on the world of YouTube to get the videos seen more out there, and the algorithms. You know what YouTube's like, they like their algorithm, so it just helps with that. And if we get to 100 subscribers, we are going to do something a little different. We haven't quite ironed out all the details yet, but we're in the talks of potentially something that we can do. So thank you so much. I'm Dee as always, and the next time I see you guys will be through the pages. Bye bye.